Hey, morning. We'll start with some tzedakah. Bring Mashiach. Keep Jews safe, wherever they may be. Okay. So, remember yesterday we were delving into the four levels, the four layers of what the Rebbe chose as the example, Moida Ani. And we learned yesterday that we learned what is Moida Ani on the Pshat level, the simple, literal level. And in a nutshell, it was I thank you Hashem for giving me back my neshama. Giving me my neshama, my soul. And the halachic aspect of it, which is part of the literal interpretation, the literal understanding, is that when Hashem gives us something, when we benefit, we enjoy a benefit that Hashem gives us, we need to thank Him for it with a blessing. Then we need to make a blessing right when we wake up. Problem is, our hands are impure. We need to wash them. But right when you wake up, you need to thank Hashem. So you should be making a blessing, which we do later after we wash our hands. We do a proper blessing, but you got to do something. So at the very least, you say this thing of Moda'ani that you thank Hashem for your soul. But it's like second best. That's what it sounds like. Okay. Now we're going to move on to the next layer of Moda'ani, the Remez layer. This is in the category of allusions and hinting, one thing to the next. Okay. I was going to explain it briefly. We are still in section 10. The idea of Moida Ani, according to the portion of Remez in Torah, is, again, the simple level is thanking Hashem for returning my soul. Okay, says the Rebbe, the Remez level is Hachazoras haneshama b'chol boker. This that Hashem returns our soul to us every morning, Remezes, it alludes to L'tchias hamesim, to the revival of the dead when Mashiach comes. Oh, okay. So now Moida Ani is not simply a focused solely on just the words that Moida Ani is sitting in front of us. There's more to it. It's extending to other areas. The idea that Hashem returns our soul in the morning it alludes to the revival of the dead when the soul will return to the body. Why? What do these two things have to do with each other? Kishino hi echad mishishim b'misa. It says in the Gemara and the Talmud that sleep is considered 1/60th, 1 out of 60 of death. Okay, so it's a mini version of death. Ubimela, automatically. Hachzoras haneshama hi me'ein tchias mesim. When a person is sleeping in a small fraction of a way, they're considered not alive. Thank God they are alive, but to a very minute degree, in a certain sense, they're considered not alive. And when in the morning, when the person wakes up and Hashem returns their soul, their life force back to them, they are revived. So this is similar. This hints to us the idea of the Tchias HaMesim, the revival of the dead, when a person is actually 100% not alive, and Hashem returns their life to them fully. Yeah. So v'zehu she'echazarta bi nishmasi chulu rabba monasecha. This is where do you see this hinted in Moida Ani? This is hinted in the words that you thank Hashem that you returned within me, my soul. Great is your faithfulness. Mizeh she'echazarta bi nishmasi. From this that you returned within me, my soul. Anu yodim she'rabba monasecha l'tchias mesim. From this that I see that you returned to me, my soul. Now in the morning, every morning, I see from this that your faithfulness, your trustworthiness is very great, that when the time comes, you will return the soul even to dead bodies. Tchias HaMesim, the revival of the dead. Okay, that is Moida Ani according to the level of Remez. I will let you know that when Chassidus comes along and starts clarifying and beautifying and energizing all these levels, the Rebbe is going to do it in a way that he's going to ask questions on each of these interpretations. It's by way of questions that we get to deeper answers. That's what questions do. So if this is not fully understood, you're not the only one. Okay. Now Moida Ani according to the third level. We're going to go dig a deeper layer within Torah. And we're going to explain Maida'ani according to the portion of Drush, where one thing is extrapolated or elucidated from one other thing. In other words, that in the level of Remez, this thing hints to something else. On the level of Drush, this thing teaches us a particular idea. What is Drush? What is the level of Drush? Hachazoras hanashama b'chol boiker chadoshim l'bekorim masha kadosh baruch hu machzir la'adam es nishmasei shifkida eslei ve'einu ma'akva ba'ad hachoyiv sha'adam chayiv loi mara al goydel amunasei shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu rabu munasecha. I'll just finish off and I'll translate. Umizeh anu dershim u'lemedim shegam adam tzarich liyas ish emunim be'ofen kazeh ve'osel la'akav es pikdoinu shel chaveli b'shvil hachoyiv es sha'mafki chayiv loi. We owe Hashem tremendously. Tremendously. For two reasons. One, He gives us so much. Not only does He give us so much, He gives us everything. Everything that a person has, you may feel and think you got it from your parents, you got it from your friends, you got it from your boss, you got it from your paycheck, whatever it is. The truth is, everything that a person has comes from Hashem. Through certain conduits, but they come from Hashem. Second thing is, we're not peachy perfect. We don't exactly, treat Hashem the way that He deserves to be treated. No, we don't listen to Him sometimes. So we are obligated to Hashem. We owe Hashem. Nevertheless, despite that, Hashem takes back our soul at night. He's holding it as collateral. And despite the fact that we owe Him so much, He doesn't hold back the soul in the morning and say, no, I'm not giving you back the soul because you owe me a lot. Like a debtor who has the collateral, and he doesn't give it back to the owner because you owe me thousands of dollars. I'm not giving it back to you until you pay me back. No, despite the fact that we owe Hashem so much, and Hashem has our soul every single night, in the morning Hashem is so faithful, so trustworthy, He gives us back our soul, despite the fact that we owe Him so much. And from this we darshan, that's what the word drush means, that drush, we expound, we extrapolate, and we learn from this that a completely, almost unrelated thing, that so too by us, when somebody owes us money, and we have something that belongs to them as a collateral, we shouldn't hold on to it and not give it back to them because of the debt that they owe us. Rather, we should be trustworthy. We should let them use it when they need it. Okay. That is Maida'ani on the level of Rush, is teaching us a behavior. We should be like Hashem, that we should give back the owner's collateral, even though he owes us money. Okay. Now Maida'ani on the level of Kabbalah. I will let you know in advance. If you don't understand what's going on, don't worry, Chassidus will clarify. Hopefully. Well, Chassidus will clarify. Hopefully I'll be able to clarify what Chassidus is saying. The idea of Maida'ani according to the level of Soy, the mystery, the secret, the Kabbalah of Torah, the inner dimension. Okay, what do we say, Maida'ani? I thank you, who? Melech Chai V'Kayim, the living and eternal King. You ever wonder why in prayers we use like these very interesting descriptions of Hashem? You sometimes think, if I were to write this, I would use very, very basic descriptions. Why do I use all these fancy words? Melech Chai V'Kayim, the living and eternal King. Comes along Kabbalah and clarifies. There's a reason why we're using these particular words. They mean something. We're not going to use other words which don't mean this. We're trying to get a particular message across. Melech Chai V'Kayim, the living and eternal King, hu bechinas hamalchus k'may shehi miyuchedes in bechinas yisoid. There's 10 sephiros in Kabbalah. We learn about 10 sephiros, 10 revelations, 10 godly revelations, which Hashem uses to create and manage the universe. Let's describe it like that. So the lowest level of those 10 spheres is the sphera of Malchus, of kingship. Right above that, higher than that, is the level of Yesoid, which is translated often as foundation. Okay? So Melech Chai V'Kayim is referring to Hashem as He reveals Himself in the level of Malchus, Melech is king, kingship, as it is united with the higher level of Yesoid. Because ki melech moed l'sfiras hamalchus, melech, king, indicates the level of malchus, of kingship. V'chai v'kayim l'sfiras hayesod. And chai v'kayim, living and eternal, refers not to malchus, but the higher level up, the level of yesod. And when you say melech, chai v'kayim, you're referring to these two levels as they unite. This is what it means, the living and eternal king, that you return to me, my soul. These two parts of the phrase are connected. The returning of the soul comes from this level, the level of malchus, as it is united with the level of yesod. Understood? I would imagine not, because this comes from the Siddur of the Arizal, and I just heard yesterday that Rabbi Chaim Vital, who was the one who wrote down all the Arizal's works mainly, he was one of the greatest Kabbalists, Rabbi Chaim Vital. He said apparently that when he first became a student of the Arizal, he couldn't understand what he was saying. He had a very difficult time understanding the Arizal. He had a new way of presenting Kabbalah, which was very radically different than what he was used to. But we'll see soon what all this means. Okay, so we have four interpretations of Maidani. Let's go through them quickly. Simple level, thank you Hashem for returning my soul. And it's the second best, because really we should be making a full-fledged blessing, but this is what we got to do because our hands are impure. 2, remez, that Hashem returning our soul to our somewhat, in a certain sense, body which has gone through 1/60th of death, hints at the idea of the Tchias HaMesim, the revival of the dead, that Hashem is trustworthy, that He will do that when the time comes. The idea of Maidani according to Drush, that's just like Hashem, we owe Him very much, and He holds on to our collateral, our soul. He doesn't hold it back. He gives it to us every single morning. And so to us, we should treat our friend that when he owes us money, we have his collateral, his deposit, we should give it back to him when he needs it. We shouldn't hold on to it and be stiff-fisted, tight-fisted. And Maidani, according to the level of Kabbalah, is that Melech Hayvekayim, the living and eternal king, refers to Hashem as He reveals Himself through the spheres of Malchus, the way it is united with the level of Yesod. And this is from this level that the soul is returned, from the Malchus as it is united with Yesod. Great. Section 11. Now the Rebbe is going to present to us Maidani according to Chassidus. Now again, as we'll see, and it will be reiterated, this is not a fifth interpretation. This is the essence of Torah. This is the Echida of Torah. So this is going to be the core essence of Maidani, and the Rebbe, that following, not today, is going to show us how this explanation is going to provide light and clarity and energy and life into every one of the four interpretations. But let me clarify one thing before we go further. What's going to happen is the Rebbe is not going to take this explanation of Chassidus, of Maidani according to Chassidus, and plug this explanation into each four levels of Torah study. He's not going to do that. What's going to happen is he's going to show us the way Chassidus explains Maidani, and you'll see in this explanation the Yechida shining. The essence is going to be out in the open. It's only on the level of Yechida you can say such a thing. Okay? And it's that exposure of Yechida, that is what the Rebbe is going to plug in. Okay, so the interpretation according to Chassidus, which is like the form, let's call it, is going to be left behind, but the light behind it is going to be clarified, come and plug in into every single interpretation. Fine. Section 11. Habiur hanal shapi dalet chelki hapardis nararach shabatoiro mevar inyonim protim be'erech haklal gadol shabazeh b'hayidod Maidani. Each of these four explanations, according to these four levels of Pshat, Remez, Drush, and Sod, which correspond to the four soul levels of Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, within Torah, explain specific ideas within the thanking of Maidani. Uba'a Toiras HaChassidus. Comes along the teachings of Chassidus. Yechida Shebet, which is the level of Yechida, the essence of Torah. Umiva'eres bir klali. It doesn't give us a particular defined explanation. It gives us an all-encompassing general explanation. Miva'eres is a nekuda ha'atmis asher b'maidani haba mimchinas ha'yechida sheba'adam. And it comes and explains the essential point that is contained within Maidani that comes from the level of Yechida of the Yid, of the Jew. Ready? Says the Rebbe. Habir al pitoides Chassidus al moida ani chuluhu. The explanation of moida ani, according to Chassidus, is, okay, what we are about to say. This is almost a direct quote from, actually, it might even be a direct quote from the little book that the Rebbe compiled in the early 1940s called Hayom Yom, the Daily Day. I don't know how else to say it. It's a calendar essentially that starts on the 19th of Kislev, ends on the 18th of Kislev a year later, and there's a little snippet of a Hasidic insight for each day of the year. So this is from the insight from the 11th of Shabbat. Ready? Haschalosai shall say that Hayoim hu b'moida ani. The beginning of the order of one's day is with moida ani. That's how a Jew starts their day. She'oimrim oisoi koidim netilas yadayim. That you say moida ani before you wash your hands. Afilu b'yadayim tmeyos. Even when the hands are impure. It's just not simply that you didn't wash your hands yet. What does that mean you didn't wash your hands? Your hands are impure. Why do you start your day with moida ani even when your hands are impure? Lefisha kol hatumos sheba'olam einon metamos hasamoida ani shel Yehudi. Because all the negativity and all the darkness and all the impurities of the world cannot contaminate the moida ani of a Jew. It's possible the Jew might be lacking in this area, in that area. They're not perfect. They don't do things properly the way they should. But their moida ani is untouchable. It always remains completely perfect. That's moida ani according to Chassidus. Moida ani is very, very unique. The Yechida is exposed in moida ani. Okay? We'll see the Yechida in a second, but the idea that no matter where you're holding in life, no matter what you've been through, no matter what you may have done that's negative, no matter what kind of thoughts you have, no matter what kind of beliefs you have, no matter, you could be the greatest righteous individual, the greatest tzaddik, and you could be the opposite to the greatest extreme. The moida ani of a Jew is always perfect. It's untouchable. It's uncontaminable. Is that a word? This idea that the moida ani of a Jew is untouchable, it's unstainable, it can't be damaged, comes from the level of Yechida specifically. On the four lower levels of the soul, nefesh, ruach, neshama, even chaya, there can be a blemish or even impurity associated there. But the level of Yechida, the essence of the Jewish soul, that is always one with and united with Hashem's very essence, it is not applicable there. Any blemish or any impurity, God forbid, and the soul always, the essence always remains pure and perfect. Just like you can't damage Hashem, you can't harm Hashem, you can't contaminate Hashem. Hashem is perfect and He's whole. So too, on the essence of the soul, the Jewish soul, the level of Yechida, which is united with Hashem's essence, so too, the level of Yechida is undamageable. It can't be contaminated or impurified. Adds the Rebbe in the parentheses, וזהו טעם הפנימי על מה שבמוידע אני לא נזכר שום שם מזיין השמש שאינם רחוקים. כי מכיוון שהמוידע אני בו מצד בחינס היחידה, עצם הנשמה, הרי ההידוע של עצם הנשמה היא לעצמוס יסברך לתופס בשם. This flips the whole thing on its head. Why don't we make a blessing? Why don't we make a blessing right when we wake up? We can't, their hands are impure. You can't say Hashem's name. Nebuch! No, Nebuch means like, oh yeah, it's unfortunate. You can't say a blessing, you can't say Hashem's name. No, at the very least, say this. Comes along Chassidus, says, no. You know why we don't make, the deeper reason why we don't make a blessing? We don't use Hashem's name? Because we're not talking to a name. We're not talking to Hashem as He's represented, as He's revealed, exposed, and represented in a name. We're talking to Hashem's very essence. My Moeda'ani comes from my essence as a Jew and is talking to Hashem's essence. Hashem's essence, He doesn't have any names. He's Hashem. Hashem is a name. But he doesn't have any title. He just is. That's why we say Moeda'ani. We say, Moeda'ani lifonecha, I think you. Who's you? Any description from here on out is missing the point. We're talking to Hashem's very essence. Okay, we'll have to pause here. God willing, tomorrow we're going to end off this section. And then we're going to start getting into how Chassidus pumps up the other four levels. And we're going to start at length. It's going to go at length. First, we're going to start with the literal level. And you're going to see how the Rebbe plugs the Chassidus light into the literal interpretation of Moeda'ani. It's going to blow your mind. It's going to be fantastic. Okay, tomorrow, God willing.